Hello everybody. So in my last video, I talked about how it looks like the downtrend is probably going to continue, and that is definitely happening. The downtrend is most certainly continuing right now. If I turn on my weekly support levels, we just dumped down below this level at 36,270, and it looks like we're getting a little bounce off of this weekly level here, but I'll talk more about support levels later. In this video, I'll be going over some of the scary indications that we are seeing and if they can possibly turn around. I'll be going over what I think could happen in the short term and some significant support levels that we have just below us. And then finally, I'll go over a few scenarios for the long term, some that could cause me to remain optimistic and some that could look not so attractive. All right, so starting off on the weekly time frame, a few videos ago I mentioned how it looks like we could definitely possibly print a red dot on the weekly momentum wave here. I saw the VWAP curving down and I noticed we were holding heavy resistance on this resistance line. We were rejecting off it a bunch. It looked like the downtrend definitely had the potential to continue, and so I figured that we might get a red dot here and we might continue down, possibly putting in some lower lows. Now, the money flow on the weekly is pretty frightening. It just continues moving downwards and at this point is very close to crossing down into the negative. And the last time we saw the weekly money flow cross down into the negative was during the 2018 bear market, and it stayed in the red for about 200 days before it crossed back up. And even then, it was bobbing around while Bitcoin was kind of going on this mini run, then crashing all the way back down to basically the lows. So basically, the last time the money flow crossed into the negative after being up this high, it stayed down there for over a year, not counting this one time that it kind of popped up for a little bit. The daily time frame looks pretty iffy. It looks like we could bottom here soon if we get a little bounce here and we might be able to print a green dot, or it looks like this momentum wave could get dragged out for a while. The money flow isn't looking horrible. It looks like we could print a higher low in money flow and maybe go on to cross upwards into the positive maybe within the next few weeks if we get a bounce of some sort. If we end up putting in a lower low here, I think it's possible that we print some sort of bullish divergence because this daily momentum wave is really far down there. So even if this momentum wave comes down a little bit more, we still could print some sort of bullish divergence here. And maybe this one is in the bottom. Maybe we end up coming lower and continuing to print bullish divergences on the daily. That would look pretty good, but right now seems like we are a ways away from putting in a bottom on the daily time frame. You can see the VWAPs curving back out, and the RSIs were pretty high up there. Looks like they definitely have the possibility to come back down and kind of hang around the bottom, kind of like they did over here. Now, talking about some support levels that we have. First, I want to talk about this trend line that we were holding resistance on since all-time highs. This is a very significant trend line. It held resistance during a 50% correction, and we got a perfect 3 touches off of it before we broke out of it. And I think it would look really good if we came back down to retest this line as support. And ideally, I would like us to hold the summer support as well. So if we end up bobbing around this level and maybe retesting this line a couple times, hopefully we are able to stay above 28K. Now, I have these weekly levels of support drawn up in a folder here, and the way I find these levels is I try and look for areas that the bodies of the candle close on, and especially if you see some like this where we have support and resistance with the bodies of the candles, because for some reason where the weekly candles close on the Sundays seems to be very significant levels, especially if there's multiple closes at the same level. So these weekly levels are typically very strong support and resistance, and we do have a few of those below us. We just recently broke down below this one at 36,270 something, And it looks like we're getting a little bounce off this one at about 34,800. You can see on this one we had 4 weekly candles close on this level, plus we had some wicks off this level. And we are getting a bounce off of that level right now. We did peak above 35,000 there for a second, but looks like we came back down below that one. So I don't know if this level is going to hold. We may end up breaking through it soon. But what really interests me is these 2 weekly levels that we got down around 33,100 and 32,300. You can see we had lots of perfect weekly closes on these levels back in 2020. And I like the fact that there is a little bit of confluence here with not only the weekly levels and this trend line, but if you pull a fib from just about 10,000, a little bit below 10,000, the bottom that we put in right before we went on this bull run right here, we have a golden pocket or a 0.618 sitting right in between these 2 weekly levels. So it would be nice if we can get a bounce off this general area right here, considering all of the support levels that we got right there. Plus, if we get a bounce off this level, it'd be a very nice resistance to support flip. But if not, if we come lower, we also have the fib retracement from the March 2020 crash, which also happens to be right at the yearly lows. I really would prefer not to see us test this level again, but maybe we get a bounce off this trend line, come back down to retest it one more time, and hopefully we are able to hold this level. This is going to be like the battleground where the bears are trying to push it down, the bulls are buying as much as they can, trying to push it back up. This is the line that many people are either going to try and defend or break through, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully we can find some support sooner, maybe print some bullish divergences, maybe on the weekly time frame. Overall, I remain optimistic as long as we continue to trade inside of this yearly range. I think a lot of people are going to be fighting for that, and so I remain hopeful as long as we're in it. But if we lose this level, many people may have to face a harsh reality soon, which will bring both devastating losses and possibly the best opportunity we will see in our lifetimes. During the last bear market, most people either hadn't heard about this space or were still unsure about the future of this space and this technology, but this time around, I think it's a different story. A lot more people know about this stuff now, a lot more people are involved, and I think it's not only the gains that all these people are here for, I think it is because they see what this can do, and seems like the world needs it most now. Over the next couple years, some of this technology could solve some major issues that the world is facing right now, and I think a lot of projects are on track to do that. If we end up recovering from this, great. I wouldn't be surprised. I would be glad, and I'd be sure to take my profits out when I'm sure that it's time, but if not, if it is a bear market, we won't have to suffer for that long, and the opportunity that that will bring, in my opinion, will be worth it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Really appreciate all of the support, everybody. And I will see you all on Sunday for my next video.